This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Sunday is going to be a spectacular day for football from start to finish. We've got Chiefs and Dolphins in the morning. We have got Ravens and Seahawks in the opening window. We have got Eagles and Cowboys in the late window. And of course, we top things off with the Bengals and the Bills. That is a banger of a day from start to finish. We're going to break down those key games for today here on the show by talking to Dr. Ed Feng and getting his read on what his numbers say about those key games, his favorite bets at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and FanDuel Research. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here as I am every Thursday by Dr. Ed Feng. Check out his work at thepowerrank.com and check him out on Twitter at thepowerrank. And Ed, week number 9 is an absolute dandy. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm sporting the Lions hat because it's not every week that you beat a team and they fire the coach, they fire the general manager, and they benched the quarterback. So it was quite a week for the Detroit Lions. Not to say that it was unexpected at all the way that the game happened. Could have been even worse. Jared Goff threw a pick 6, but I'm doing pretty well.
We teased through key numbers for reasons because it's, we get, they were 7.5 at one point. So you get across 7, get across 3 and stuff like that. We tease, and I tease them at the Chargers, but didn't need to for either game because both the Chargers and the Lions cover those games in the traditional markets pretty easily. And Ed, honestly, they won by 12 or so. They could have won by 20 easily in that game.
So many. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders had one good drive and that was about it.
It was annoying that I had over 44.5, which was good for 30 seconds before they had a penalty call back on the Craig Reynolds touchdown late. So that was a bummer, but overall, your Lions playing, I'm going to call them your Lions from now on, just so you know. Your Lions playing good football. Excited to have them back for next week. But as a fill-in for the best team in football being on bye, we do have some pretty fun games for this week. We'll break down those games, break down what Ed's numbers say about those games, and much more here in just 1 second. But first, looking for our college football breakdown for week number 10. That is already posted on the Covering the Spread podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcasts, we talked about the key games, Mizzou, Georgia, and others for this week. That is up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, the FanDuel YouTube page, and FanDuel TV Plus. In the same places you can find our Breeders' Cup preview. We talked to Dubs Anderson of FanDuel TV and TVG to get his read on this weekend's biggest races at Santa Anita Park. Find all those in the same place, Covering the Spread podcast feed, FanDuel YouTube page, and FanDuel TV Plus. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That is $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, totals, and more. So visit FanDuel and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, must be 21 plus and present in select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. First online real money wager only. $5 pregame money line wager required. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777. Or visit ccpg.org/Chat, Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700. Visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-OPEN-Y or text OPEN-Y in New York. Now, Ed, we're in week 9, and I joked about the Lions being the top team in the NFL. That was a joke, but there is some question as to who that top team in the NFL is right now. There's no one dominant team, at least based on my perspective. So when you take each team's entire body of work thus far, who do your numbers have as being the top team at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. In terms of, let's look at it in terms uh, adjusted for who you've played, which is what I do on my site. And let's just take that, right? So I'll look at things like margin of victory, I'll look at passing success rate, yards per pass attempt, so on and so forth, but only based on the current season. These are not the metrics that we're going to make point spreads by. There's still going to be some other components that go in there. But right now, I mean, I have Baltimore as the top team based on the current season. That shouldn't really be much of a surprise. They've played pretty well. And, you know, it was only 3 short weeks ago where they were, 5-2, 4-2, something, and they had lost 2 fluky games that they probably shouldn't have lost. Got a lot of value in them in the game against Tennessee in London. That hasn't happened again. The markets have really caught up there. And then the NFC, San Francisco is still the best team by the numbers, by the metrics from the current season. They're second. And that's not much of a surprise. I think you have to look at their performance for the whole season. You have to balance just their blazing hot start with, not really getting the results over the last 2 games. Whatever's going on with Brock Purdy and his concussion, not playing as well. But look, the Niners are a really good football team, and they should be the favorites. I actually have Detroit as the second best team in the NFC, and I also don't think that's a surprise. I think they're 5th. And look, this team is going to be able to sling the ball with just about anybody in the NFL. Pass offense is the most sticky, predictive statistic that we can get. And the defense isn't terrible. They're kind of getting close to NFL average, which is, I mean, it's not as, getting to NFL average for Detroit is not quite the miracle that it would be for like the Raiders, but it is an act of faith, and they may be legitimately good. I'm not good, but I mean, they just need to be average.
Yeah,
I think to give themselves a chance. So yeah, definitely a team to keep an eye on. And so that's kind of by the metrics from the current season.
Yeah, we're very similar. Again, looking the same way you did at just this year. I've got San Francisco 1. I have Buffalo 2. It's a lot of faith, I think, in their offense. The defense is pretty rough. And it's not going to get better given the injuries to Matt Milano, Tre'Davious White, stuff like that. Like, it's not going to get better, but the offense is just so good that they kind of like naturally rise there. Baltimore is 3 for me because that defense is so good. The offense has been fantastic. Then Miami, Kansas City, and then Detroit is number 2 in the NFC, but number 6 overall. So it sounds like we're pretty similar on those being the top 6 teams. Dallas, Philadelphia right there as well behind Detroit. So it sounds like we're pretty similar. I think that the noteworthy thing for me, Ed, is that we both have Baltimore very high, because when you look at Super Bowl odds and stuff like that, they're not going to grade out as well in that regard as other teams we've been discussing. Now,
right.
I think that with Baltimore, like, there's still an element of prior in like good numbers and stuff like that, but like a prior should be pretty good on Baltimore as well. So should we be taking them more seriously with when it comes to Super Bowl markets as well?
I certainly think so. I mean, I think the prior on Baltimore was strong, but it couldn't be too strong given what we saw at the end of the season. Lamar Jackson wasn't playing. You kind of flame out. Honestly, I mean, if you remember, they really should have beat Cincinnati in that playoff game at Cincinnati, right? They were knocking on the doorstep with Hundley, right?
Yeah.
As the quarterback, and then Cincinnati takes that fumble return the distance. We're looking at Super Bowl odds. I kind of don't know at all what to think of that Philly team. I don't think they should be co-favorites. Certainly believe in Kansas City, although they kind of have their problems. I would have Baltimore higher.
Yeah.
I need to run my stuff my stuff through the unabated simulator and see what they're telling me on Super Bowl odds, because right now Baltimore looks really good. And I think their defense performance is going to regress a little bit, but
sure.
I think they've been solid enough on offense that you really have to like their prospects.
Like, they're a team, if their defense falters, the offense can make up for it. Like, we know there are multiple paths to a win. Like, they could stifle you on both sides like they did against Detroit. They could play really good defense like they did against Arizona. They have multiple paths to victory, and I think that's pretty enticing. So Baltimore team, we both, I think, understandably high on as of right now. Let's talk now about that fun game on Sunday morning in Frankfurt, Germany, with the Dolphins taking on the Chiefs right now. Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites. Total in this game is 50.5. And Ed, the Dolphins have been awesome so far this year overall, but have come up short when they faced really top-level teams like the Eagles and the Bills. Can they buck that trend here in Germany against the Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm not really so sure. So the goods for Miami is that they're kind of slowly creeping up in my pass defense numbers. They were really at the bottom of the NFL. They're 25th now when I look at passing success rate adjusted for opponent. So that's progress. Maybe they get Jalen Ramsey back. Xavier Howard hasn't played. The cornerback hasn't played since week 6. So that's obviously not a good thing. You'd like to see them get a veteran like that back. Kansas City, kind of didn't really play that well against Denver last week. So that was certainly unideal from their part. Patrick Mahomes had the flu. Again, I think we've talked about this team in terms of, look, the offensive numbers will get better. They're top 10, but look, they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out on that side of the ball. It's interesting to see that their second most targeted receiver is Rashee Rice, who's a rookie out of SMU, actually getting almost 2.5 yards per route run, which is almost a yard more than the average for a wide receiver. So it's been disappointing with Kadarius Toney and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but Sky Moore. But, if you can have a rookie really break out, we'll see. I mean, you're probably going to get some regression in those numbers, but he is the second most targeted guy behind Kelsey. So I find that interesting. My numbers have Kansas City by 4. I would definitely lean that way. I haven't bet it yet. I think I probably will because I'm certainly going to be watching this game on Sunday morning.
Yeah, with Rashee Rice, his role keeps on expanding. It is based on the yards per route run is currently based on the small sample, and that will regress as it grows larger, but he's playing more now, which means I know that some people wanted the Chiefs to trade for whether it be like DeAndre Hopkins or whatever it was at the trade deadline. Like, I think they're kind of viewing Rashee Rice and his progression as a rookie as being like their mid-year acquisition at wide receiver, because Toney has had a long time to get healthy and learn this playbook, still is not there. Sky Moore keeps on improving. He's kind of not that guy, but Rashee Rice does give him a legit second option. We've seen him at Mahomes, if he has Kelsey plus anything else, can be among the best quarterbacks in football. And they've been efficient passing the ball, even without having a legitimate second pass catcher. So I think being high in the Chiefs still is the right way to go, even though that offense looked kind of out of sync so far. I think there is room for growth, especially as Rashee Rice's role continues to grow.
I think so too. I mean, it's kind of an act of faith that we say Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes will get it done, but that's been a pretty good assumption over the last however many seasons.
And I know they let up 24 points to Denver, but that was based on weird field position. The defense is still playing very well, and they tend to get better as the year goes along there. And that's not to say like they'll get better again this year. It's more to say I trust Steve Spagnuolo as a defense coordinator to keep them afloat defensively. And I think that is a key strength for them for this year. If the offense does sputter, I think they could potentially make up for that. Let's talk now about the Cowboys and the Eagles in Philadelphia, where right now the Eagles are 3-point favorites. Total in this game is 46.5, and the Cowboys have been a volatile team so far this year, Ed. They had a good volatile game last week, but they've had a lot of bad ones too. So what's your overall read on Dallas thus far?
Yeah, I don't know. I was really high on them coming into the season. They're so up and down. Overall, numbers wise, they actually look pretty decent. They're 9th in my pass offense by adjusted success rate, 6th on defense. I think the ingredients are there for them to kind of make it at the end of the season. Am I optimistic about that? Not really, but yeah, we'll see. I think I can make more of a case that, Philadelphia is probably flying a little bit over certainly what their record suggests. They're 7-1. They're 4-1 in one-score games. And honestly, that one loss was that Jets game where they probably should have never even been in a one-score game. And Jalen Hurts had a really bad game. Philadelphia 7-1. They come off the Super Bowl season. There's a lot of high expectations. In reality, they've regressed just like I expected them to this preseason. When you look at the data based on this year, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, they're 9th. That's exactly the kind of regression that I expected coming into the season. But with that said, I mean, I have Eagles by 3 in this game by my numbers. So certainly not seeing any value here. I do think the Eagles are regressing. I'm kind of in that mood where I hope they play well for a couple games so we can fade them a little bit later. But this is not the spot.
Yeah, I do show a bit of value in the Cowboys. The model I trust more with Philadelphia because the other one puts a bigger emphasis on passing efficiency, and they're so weird with how they operate. I think that trusting the one that views things more holistically is better with them. This is the Eagles favored by 1.5 points here, so a bit of value on the Dallas side, but I don't think that's enough to take them right now. So to me, it's a stay away. I do think that the Eagles are, like you said, coming back to earth a bit, which is kind of expected, just given how good they were last year. I think most teams that are that good, you expect to regress. The ninth best team is still a very good football team. And they have the potential to be better as they get healthier in the secondary and stuff like that. So maybe it's a spot where we do bet against them at some point. I don't think this is the week, though, kind of like you said. So I think for both of us, this winds up being a stay away. Broadly, we're okay betting against Philadelphia, but I think this might not be the spot, especially because you're buying in the Cowboys coming off of a huge game. They're a very, very public team. People tend to like the Cowboys. I think we'll see a spot to bet against the Eagles eventually, but I agree with you, Ed, where this is probably not the week to do so.
Yep, absolutely.
All righty, let's talk about the Sunday night game right now. That is the Bills at the Bengals, where right now this total is 49.5, and the Bengals are 1.5 point favorites. And this one swung a ton over the weekend because after the Bills played Thursday, they were 2.5 point favorites over the Bengals. Then the Bengals beat the 49ers, and this one goes all the way to the Bengals favorite by 2.5. It's now back down to 1.5, but Ed, is this an overreaction to what the Bengals did last week, or is that type of move appropriate because they did beat a very good team there?
Yeah, it's an overreaction. I mean, I'm kind of kicking myself for not sending this out to members when it was Buffalo plus 2.5 points. Look, Buffalo, hasn't had the best little stretch lately, but they're still a pretty good football team. They're a little bit down from my preseason prior, but not a ton. And I actually think they're going to get better. They traded for Rasul Douglas, the cornerback from Green Bay this year, who's been solid, if unspectacular, for Green Bay over the last couple of years. Can another above average NFL cornerback help that defense? I potentially think it can. So I think they can be better on that side of the ball. Overall, by the data this year, they're pretty good. And then, let's talk about Cincy, right? When you look at the data from this year, they're exactly NFL average. And of course, it's fair to say that, look, that's not really indicative of where they're at. Joe Burrow has this leg injury that he's played through. That's not, that doesn't represent what this team is. And I get that. But you're also, when you make Cincinnati minus 1.5, minus 2, you're essentially saying these teams are the same, which essentially means you are really willing to throw out every bit of data from Cincinnati this year and put them back on their preseason prior. And if that's true, then, you can have Cincinnati minus 1.5. I think that's a little bit faulty just because Cincy's defense was really good last year, and that kind of came in with the expectations this year. They haven't been as good. I think they're roughly NFL average in my adjusted passing success rate. They're actually 29th in PFF coverage grade. I think that's closer to the truth than the top 5 unit that they were last season. I think that was the outlier. So I don't think they're as good on that side of the ball. I trust my model here. It has the Cincinnati by 0.5 point. I think there's value still. Buffalo plus 1.5. There was actually a plus 2 out there this morning that I also missed, but c'est la vie. I don't think it's going back towards Cincy, but I still like Buffalo here, maybe a little bit on the money line as well.
Yeah, the money line right now is plus 108. I took this Tuesday at plus 136 because I agree with you. So you said you kind of throw out the entire what we've seen thus far to justify Cincinnati. I did that. I have them almost entirely back to their preseason prior. Because Joe Burrow's healthy, and I think that makes a big difference. So if I put Cincinnati back to their preseason prior, I still showed value in the Bills with where they were at. And so I'm kind of having a hard time finding out what the pitch is for making Cincinnati where they're at right now. Because even if I toss out all that, The defense, I will allow the data to come in for them. Allowing the defense for Buffalo to come in, the defense has not played well for them. So like the model knows the defense has not played well for Buffalo. The model knows to toss out the stuff from the Bengals earlier on this year, and it still says there's value on the Bills, even at plus 108 in the money line right now. I still show value there personally. So even if I am as generous as possible to Cincinnati, I can't get to this number. So to me, that says I should agree with you and say even at plus 108, with the number having moved quite a bit, the Buffalo Bills still have value in this game right now.
Yeah, no, and like we should not. I don't know. A lot of things happen in the NFL season. Teams play well. Teams play not as well. I think Buffalo is just in a part where they're not playing well. Before the start of the season, I remember talking to Dr. Eric Eager, and he thinks Buffalo is the most talented roster in the NFL. Obviously, probably can't make that case. You have to adjust that because Tre'Davious White is hurt, and they do have some other injuries. But I still think they're near the top.
Yeah. Having Josh Allen can cover up for a lot of things. I've had my ups and downs with him, but I think he's played well this year through that shoulder injury too. So we're both in the Bills right now against the Bengals, plus 108 the money line right now at FanDuel Sportsbook. Any other bets stand out to you across week number 9, Ed?
Yeah, let's talk real quick about the Thursday night game. I know this is not going to have a ton of shelf life, but I don't know. I think it's an interesting exercise to pretend that Will Levis didn't play last week and see what this number would be. And I guarantee you it would be north of 3. I really like Pittsburgh minus 2.5 here. You kind of have to guess on how you make this number based on Will Levis. Will Levis was widely considered, a player that wasn't ready to play in the NFL. Of course, he goes out and throws 4 touchdown passes and a lot of long touchdown passes as well. Yeah. Those passes looked really good, and I don't want to take that away from him. But I'll also note that he had a 29% passing success rate, that Zach Wilson type territory. And I just don't think he's going to be able to do that again, especially against a well-prepared Pittsburgh team, a Pittsburgh team that will I don't think they needed an entire week to put in a plan to deal with Will Levis. So look, this is the same type of knowledge. This is the same type of reasoning that I used to bet against Brock Purdy last year, and that didn't really turn out well. I'm still going to go with that type of reasoning here. Definitely like Pittsburgh minus 2.5 here on the Thursday night game.
Well, I think it also goes back to like your core philosophy that big plays are hard to predict. And the big plays for Will Levis hit last week, but that's not always going to be the expectation going forward.
Right.
And like you look at those plays, like if that cornerback doesn't slip on the first long DeAndre Hopkins touchdown, it might be a pick because he kind of just lofted it up there. Like there's a lot of randomness in that. And Will Levis will take his chances. So like he'll have more big plays this year if he keeps starting. But like, should that now be the baseline expectation that the Will Levis we saw on Sunday will be what we see going forward? And I agree with you. Probably not. He's still a downgrade from Ryan Tannehill because Tannehill's been pretty efficient as an NFL starter. Even recently, he's been pretty efficient. So, like, big plays are hard to predict. He got a lot of them. People just saw the Steelers flop last week. So, like, it's kind of a spot where, like, it just kind of aligns where a lot of the core principles for you are all in play in one game.
Yes, for sure. I don't actually think Ryan Tannehill is that good. That was part of my reason for fading Tennessee before. And I feel like there's a significant downgrade. Hitman was talking on, he's a pro bettor. He was talking on Forward Progress podcast last week. He thinks Tennessee's offense is the worst in the NFL with Will Levis. That didn't happen last week. And I don't know if they're the worst because there's some competition down there.
Yeah.
But I think you don't really get off what we thought Will Levis was. We'll see how this plays out. I mean, this is what makes sports interesting. I think it's good. I don't know. I think it's great that he has such a great game last week because I think it's providing a lot of value this week. I really like Pittsburgh.
I also think it's great he played well last week because I had the Titans money line because I thought the quarterback on the other side is also pretty bad. So showed value in the Tennessee side of things. Wound up taking it there. Yeah. So hats off to you, Will Levis, but we're not expecting the exact thing to happen this week.
I don't know. I'm kind of surprised that Ritter got benched, though. I thought he was doing better than he was at kind of the midpoint of the season. And yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, what there was like a concussion, and then maybe
There was concussion
and then
check,
now,
but he got cleared. Yeah.
and now he's cleared, and now he's benched, which I don't know. I mean, I'm not a fan of Desmond Ridder, and I'm not sure what his upside is, but we kind of know more that Taylor Heinicke doesn't have that upside. We've kind of had enough data to see
No ceiling at all. I think that what they're doing is the floor play. Like the floor on Heinicke is higher because he doesn't do as much. Like he has as many mistakes. Right. Is definitely higher because he's athletic. He has a bigger arm. Heinicke's arm is a noodle. Like it's awful. But so like they're going for the floor, which I typically disagree with. But like if you look at last year when Marcus Mariota was starting, and I know that I have a blind spot for Marcus Mariota. I know, believe me. But like they were efficient when they threw the ball in early downs last year. They have not been that this year. Adjusting for opponent, they're at negative 0.03 passing net expected points per dropback on early downs. And that's the league average is 0.08. So they've been like terrible in that regard. And that accounts for sacks, accounts for fumbles. And he had a lot of those. So I don't know. I think with that personnel, they should be better on early downs than they throw, but like they're not. So I don't know. I guess I liked Ridder coming out of college. I just have not seen anything in the NFL yet to convince me he's good.
I mean, I didn't like Ridder coming out of college, but I think you have to look at it in terms of you're playing these two guys. Which one has the higher chance of becoming a solid NFL starter?
It's not Heinicke, that's for sure. That is very true.
So, like, what are you doing?
I think they're thinking about who can win me a game on Sunday. And if you're thinking short term, which is a flawed mentality a lot of times in the NFL, if you're thinking short term, Heinicke probably does lift your win probability for one game. If you're thinking about, long term, who can has higher odds, because Heinicke's odds of becoming a superstar and a viable starter are 0. And Ritter's are not 0.
But it's bad. And with Ridder, I think it's like 10%, right?
Yeah.
And
10 versus 0 favors Ridder for sure. Yeah.
If you're Arthur Smith, I guess I can see this if you're 2-6, but you're 4-4. Honestly,
I think that's actually the reason they're making the shift is because they're in contention in a bad NFC South where they're going with the floor option and taking advantage of the fact they've got a good running game. They've got some decent pieces. And I think they want their quarterback to kind of stop losing them games of key fumbles towards the goal line. Like it's kind of like I don't know, a negativity bias. I don't know.
Those fumbles are so random.
They are. They very much are. I'm not saying that it's a good decision. I'm saying why.
You couldn't try to fumble on the goal line like that again, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that if you're thinking long term, which we would think people should, the Ridder's a better option. But if you're telling me I need to win one game, I would probably pick Heinicke too. I just don't know if that's the way you should think about things running an NFL team where it's not all about next week.
I think I would make an argument that you're not necessarily, maybe you're giving yourself a little bit of an edge with Heinicke in the short term. I just don't think it's a lot.
I don't think it is either. I think they're both bad, honestly, but
I think Arthur Smith is just trying to give Annie Agar more content for next week. Just trying to give her I
don't think she needs it.
Hey, the crazier the crazier people are in the NFL, the funnier it is. Did you see the stuff about partially why McDaniels got fired?
Oh, that was, I think, are you talking about the fortune cookie?
No, the fact that he dressed up as Mark Davis for Halloween.
That was a joke, I think.
Was it a joke?
I think that was a joke.
Athletic.
Was it in the Athletic?
I thought they clipped something out of the Athletic, but
I thought that it was a spoof. I might be wrong in that though.
I did not thoroughly research it, so we should probably cut this section of the pod.
We're not. People have talked about that earlier too. But honestly, I wish it were true. The joke version was that he dressed up as Mark Davis, and the Mark Davis gave him a fortune cookie that said "You're fired, champ" or something like that. I wish that were true. I don't think it is, but I wish it were.
That has to be true, man. That's too good to not be true.
Let's will it into existence. If it didn't happen,
will it?
Next Raiders coach, whoever that may be, make it happen, buddy. Make it happen.
Yeah.
Hot shot. It was your fired hot shot. That's what it was. Make it happen, hot shot.
Right.
All right. That is all that we have here for today on covering the spread. But Ed, as you mentioned, you've got your member numbers over at the Power Rank. People want to find that, your newsletter, your podcast. Where can they find all of that?
Yeah, check it out at thepowerrank.com. If you like what you heard on the show, I would suggest signing up for the free email newsletter. You get more of my bets during the week. You get 5 Nuggets Saturday, which is my curated list of sports betting tips and analytics. And then, yeah, see what you think there. And if you do want all my best stuff, that is a paid service, but check out the free stuff first.
Alrighty. Find that at thepowerrank.com. Find Ed's podcast, the Football Analytics Show, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter at Jim Saunas. You can also find me on Threads at Jim.Saunas and follow FanDuel Research on Twitter at FanDuel Research. Follow the podcast, Covering the Spread, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on FanDuel YouTube page and FanDuel TV Plus if you want some thoughts on tonight's game, the Thursday night game. Check out Primetime Tom with Tom Vecchio on this podcast feed and on FanDuel TV Plus. Good luck to all of you with your bets for tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow for some player props across week 9. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.